Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell Podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course, and we are pleased to be joined by the one, the only Sean Baligian of State Champs. Of course, if you haven't heard, State Champs will be broadcasting the tomorrow's Brighton Howell hockey game from the Kensington Valley Ice House. So if you can't make it out there, it'll be broadcasted live all across all across the world on the State Champs YouTube channel. So should be fun there. And if you are going to the game, I recommend, I said this yesterday, get there early because as you know, Sean, KV gets packed.
Yeah, it does. Hey, a lot of great hockey out there. Something we were talking about on our last show, Casey. I'm sure you know this. You're talking about 3 top 10 teams out there in close proximity out in Livingston County. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So thanks for the shout out.
First off, Sean, thanks so much for coming on. I know it's a big time for all of you guys at State Champs, as of course, at time of recording, by the time this episode might get out, Hockey Time might be airing on the State Champs YouTube channel. So of course, this is kind of like the big week before Christmas, and then of course, there even though there might be a ton of games this week, but let's talk about some of the big games so far before we get into that Brighton Howell matchup. But how about Novi getting a big win last night? I know they've had a rough stretch. Of course, Dane's in his first year, program that you've seen many times. Of course, you live out in that area. What was it like to see those guys get a win?
It was nice, no doubt about it. I think they needed it. The season started so well for them, and this is going to be a process. You see it, all the time, Casey. I'm sure you've seen it. New coaching staff comes in, and it's going to take some time to get some things going that they want to get going. I think a perfect example of that right now is Plymouth. I mean, you take a look at how far Plymouth has come. They really have. And Dane, I know Dane. I think Dane's heart is in the right place. I think Dane is looking at the long term for this. So whatever happens this year, this is the beginning, and these guys can be a big part of turning this thing around for the Wildcats. But yeah, anytime you can go on the road in the KLAA and find a way to win a hockey game, that's huge. And that's exactly what they did last night. You're looking at it right now, Casey, and they got to be thinking to themselves, okay, we got one more before the Christmas break. And, it's our old buddy Clint Robert and Father Gabriel Richard. So you wait and see how things work out there. But, maybe, just maybe, you go into the break with a little winning streak. I know that the Irish will have something to say about that, but they got to be feeling good about themselves after that victory over Canton last night.
Yeah. That was a big win. And but you mentioned Plymouth earlier. They got a before we get to last night's game, big win for them this weekend. They took the park, and I don't know, for people that don't know that the PSEP campus and all that. Whenever Canton, Plymouth, and Salem get together in any sport, it's a big deal. These guys have classes together. Literally, you can go have a class. If you can go to Salem, you could have a class at Canton with Canton and Plymouth students. So it's kind of a unique setup. The Zealands have it out there as well, out on the west side of the state. But Plymouth taking the PSEP crown in hockey, and you got to be really liking what Brian's doing over there.
Oh, I do. I think that whole staff, Dallas and AJ, and I think these guys are really, really taking the next step this year. A lot of times, Casey, what I do, and maybe this is simplistic, but Lord knows I'm a simplistic person, is I look at how they play against some of the big boys. And if you take a look at what they've done this year, they played Heartland really tough. They played Brighton tough. They played Howell tough, So this is a situation right now where these guys, they're that close, and there's a fine line between winning and losing. And I think the impetus on them right now is finding that line and flipping some of those tight losses against, the usual suspects, so to speak, into wins. But when you got a goaltender like they do, Flynn is an incredible goaltender. He's a guy that we've had many discussions about putting him on our wall list, to be sure, and a lot of coaches as well. That says something. But I think the most important thing I can say, and I actually say this in the next edition of Hockey Time, I had two coaches completely, like, I did not approach them. They walked up to me and said, "Hey, keep an eye on that Plymouth team. They're doing things the right way. They're playing the right way." So that's going to be something, moving forward, Casey. That's going to be something very interesting to see, how that progresses as they continue to build that Wildcat program.
So let's talk about the Red Stallions. First year of a team that was literally put together months, like just months before the season was supposed to start. And I know they've had some tough losses, but they've gotten some big wins as well, including a couple weeks ago at the showcase against Grosse Pointe South. But just I know that Jason's been at this for a while, but what was it like to just see them make the progressions that they have this year?
Yeah, you know what? This is not easy. This, Casey. Guys that are accustomed to playing against each other, and for years these guys played with and against each other, but it's not easy to put a team like that together. And I'm with you. I give a tip of the cap to Coach Reynolds and GV, Jerry Vento, of course, and in keeping this together and find a way. I think they're 5-4 right now. And again, this has been a process for this team, getting these guys to come together, play together, get what they want. But what you want to see is progression. And I think this is a team that has progressed. And I think that freshman goaltender has been a lot of fun to watch. Quinn Pasco, he's had some big moments. Bryce Brown up front is off to a good start with 7 goals in 8 games. So you know what? It's been fun to watch this come together. And now these guys are a team. There's no more, well, we took a piece from here and we took a piece from there. These guys are a team. So I expect it to continue on the upward trajectory.
When you look at, I know another program you're pretty familiar with is Northville. With Coach Osamacher being there only in his second year, what have you kind of noticed, about that group? And they're kind of really coming on as well.
I think a lot of similarities between what we were just talking about with Plymouth and what we were talking about with Northville as well. This is a team that you saw, glimpses last year. You saw that, okay, they're being coached. Ryan, a well-respected guy. I think the world of Jay Thompson as well. And, I think to go up to Traverse City and knock off a good team like the Bay Reps. They split the series, obviously, but I think that's a testament to how far it's come. I know they've got a big game coming up tonight against the Red Stallions out in Livonia, and then they have a big game with Livonia Stevenson on Friday. A game I'm going to try to be at Novi Ice Arena. I think the key right now for this team, Casey, is getting themselves healthy. I think they have a heck of a player in Alex McCollum that, look, this is a better team when this kid is in the lineup. And if you haven't seen him yet, and if your fans haven't seen him yet, he's been a joy to watch. So, that's another dangerous team. We say it all the time. You can't afford to take a night off in the KLAA. And I think Northville is a big reason for that. That they're going to give you an honest effort every single night. They've got some good veteran leadership up top. So it'll be fun to see how they progress as the season goes on.
Yeah, I know. Rocky said yesterday on Highlander Hockey with Rocky, he's like, yeah, I mean, any win that you get in the KLAA is that is a badge of honor, because this conference is tough, and we know that coming in. But let's overall, we're in the state. Like, who is impressing you so far? Like a couple teams that are on your radar, Sean.
Well, you start with Catholic Central. I mean, they're unbelievable again. I think, as crazy as it sounds, they might be deeper than they were last year. That's incredible. I love what Heartland's doing. I really do. I joked with Coach Gadwa. I said, this is a typical Heartland team. And he was like, wait a second, you mean we got a style? And I said, yeah, you got a style. You find a way to win games. You play with an edge. And Casey, I know you've seen them. They move the puck better than anybody I've seen. It's fun to watch. I say this all the time, and I mean it. There is a particular player on their team that I have as much fun watching him as anybody in the state. I mean, I really do. He is so much fun to watch. And of course, I'm talking about Ian Castamo. He's just a fun player to watch. I would tell a young player, seriously, I'd say, watch that kid play. You know, that's what you want to bring to the table. They've been a lot of fun to watch. Byron Center is a team. I can't wait to see them with my own two eyes again. You know, they have quickly become one of the usual suspects, the team that, you know, is always going to be in the mix. And I love Micah up at Houghton. I think he's a great guy. You know, he waited his turn. We all miss Coach Markham. Shout out to Coach Markham. But I think the job that Micah is doing, I wish I had a chance to see Hancock. I'm hearing so many good things about what the Bulldogs are doing in Casey. I'm sure you remember some of the legendary teams they had not too long ago. Well, this sounds like a pretty good team. Dougie Garrow up at Marquette has another good team.
Yep.
Forest Hill Central has some pieces, man. I saw some of those guys in the summer. I can't wait to see some of those pieces now put together and in action. So there is a lot of good stuff going on around the great state of Michigan.
Yep, I got a chance to see Forest Hill Central earlier in the year when they went down to the Thanksgiving tournament. Another team I got to see a couple times this year is Clarkston. What just you know what Nathan's doing over there? What is it? How is just that you know impressed you, and what can they really do? Because you know, from a lot of people that don't know, Heartland and Clarkston are in the same region.
Yeah, you know, and Casey, you bring up such a great point. You know, that was a team that, you know, it kind of announced their presence last year, and they were so much fun to watch. And I think they took a step up this year, and it's reflected in the rankings. I mean, this is a team that, you know, it went like this last year. And it's even better this year. I give a tip of the cap to Nathan, no doubt about that. And you know, boy, there's some talent up front. Make no mistake about that. There's a guy that, you know, we already have on our list. There's another guy that probably deserves to be mentioned in that category as well. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to watch. Hey, listen, you want to talk about, you know, a game that I think everybody's going to want to see. We both saw last year Heartland and Clarkston in the playoff. I remember chatting you at that game.
Yep.
I think Clarkston remembers that game, and you know that'll be fun to see how that goes, because I think both teams are probably a little bit better this year, and so that should make for a fun game. You don't want to look too far ahead, but I think a lot of people, you know, guys like us, Casey, in the media, we can afford to look ahead a little bit. Coaches, not so much, but we can afford to look ahead and go, ooh, that could be fun potentially. And of course, potentially being the key and operative word.
Yeah. Okay, so last night, Howell, yeah, we mentioned the one KLA match with Novi beating Canton 5-1, and that was I believe that was Novi's first win since the first game of the year against the Stallions. The other game last night was Howell and Plymouth, and they got it done 4-3 last night, and the game was tied tied at 2 at the end of the second, and then Howell came out and won. And this is I think that, you know, we've all known, because, you know, Rocky's kind of told a lot of people that this team is pretty good, you know, bringing in Keith as an assistant coach. And, you know, obviously, you know, I've seen Howell a couple times this year. You saw, and obviously I know you've seen him a couple times. What impressed you about Howell?
You know what? I think that, you know, you put it all together, and you mentioned the two factors. I think, you know, Rocky, you know, the energy and everything that he brings to the table, and Keith Robertson, I think the world of Keith. You know, I've known Keith for a while. I think he's done a great job at Livonia Stevenson, and he's doing a great job at Howell. And I think right now, I'll go back to what we were just talking about with Plymouth. I think that is the difference between like where Howell is at and where Plymouth is at. Plymouth has come so close in so many of these games, Casey, you know, whether it be against Brighton, whether it be at the showcase, whether it be against Heartland, and just finding a way to win the game in the third period is kind of the next step in the progression. And that's where Howell's at right now. They're finding a way to win some of these games as they did last night. Joel and Ben up front are both off to great starts. Obviously, they're getting the goaltending back there. That's a name that everybody and their brother was talking about before the season started. So right now, yeah, I mean, there's a reason that Howell's in my top 10, and I think most people's top 10, and they showed it last night. That's a tough Wildcat squad. Make no mistake about it. And I'm sure the coaches would say the same thing. And they're playing the right way. They're listening to what the coaches say. They're getting good coaching. And when you find a way to win games like that, that's a sign of a good team. And that's exactly what we're seeing with Howell right now. And in turn, Casey, it makes the Brighton Howell game, as far as I'm concerned, can't miss. I joke all the time. Oh, I wish I could clone myself to get to this game, and I wish I could clone myself to get to that game. Well, this is a game that fortunately we're going to get an opportunity to see Thursday night at Kensington Valley.
Yeah, of course. You and Barbecue Mike will be on the call for that one on Thursday. So yeah, it'll be at 7 p.m. on the State Champs YouTube channel. So if you can't make it, or you got some plans, or if you live far away, you can tune in. But if you're going to that game, not all from Livingston County will be at that game, because of course Heartland's got the Stallions over at Heartland Ice Arena that day as well. Also, Canton is at Dearborn Divine Child, so possibly a good game for them. And then a big challenge for Plymouth, as they're going up to Cap City.
Yeah, I mean, those are the types of things that we're talking about. I think Joe Ford's done such a good job with Cap City. That's a team to watch, and they've certainly got some players that are producing there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, there's no rest in the KLA. And Casey, I'm one of those guys. I love when teams go out and say, okay, where do you want us to play? Who do you want us to play? And are willing to take on whoever, wherever. I think it makes the KLA a better place. I think it makes MHSAA hockey a better place. And, you're seeing so much of that. You know me, man, I love the showcases. I do, not only for selfish reasons, but I think it's good for the entire game. And so when you're seeing so many of these showcases pop up, I mean, look, the granddaddy of them all is still in Trenton. No disrespect to any showcase out there. That's still the granddaddy of them all. But, so many different showcases, whether it be Gaylord, whether it be Traverse City, whether it be the Lansing area, whether it be Eddie Edgar, where we were at just a couple of weeks ago. It's a good thing for all of us. It really is.
Yeah, I know there was actually another showcase that might be developing. There was this East-West showcase up at Michigan State at Munn this weekend. I know Howell put that together, and if you heard Rocky kind of talk about it a little bit on yesterday's show, was just like, I know they've gotten a lot of interest from teams. Grand Haven, with it, they have a new coach over there, Granville, and then of course Cranbrook going over there as well. And it looks like from what I've been told, it sounds like they've had some interest from more teams. So, and Michigan State really rolled out the red carpet for that event. So that'll be a fun showcase. But you mentioned Eddie Edgar, Livonia Stevenson. I know they're young this year, and well, they're really young. They only have one senior. But this is that's a team that's going to get better throughout the year. And obviously you probably know David probably better than any of us. But what is Livonia Stevenson? What's the outlook for them the rest of the season?
You know what? I hate to sound like a broken record, but a lot of times with these younger teams, you see a similar kind of situation. They have to find a way to turn some of these tight losses into W's, and the only thing that's going to do that is taking your lumps. I mean, and they've taken their lumps. They've lost so many tight games. I mean, that game against Trenton was unbelievable at the showcase. And, they gave Brighton all they could handle, but that's part of the process. Those are part of the growing pains. I like a lot of what Dave is doing. I told him as much. And Casey, at one point in the season, I know everybody and their brother talks about how young they are. And you're absolutely right. You're only talking about one senior, but when you have a bunch of games under your belt, well, all of a sudden you're not young anymore. You've got that experience, and we're not talking about you in terms of youth anymore. We're talking about what you can accomplish, and I think they're pretty close to that mark. Again, in so many of these games against high caliber opponents, when you're this close and fall short, well, that's an experience thing, and the biggest step is learning to find a way to make that big save late, to get that big goal late, and flip the script. So I think they're going to be dangerous by the end of the year. I mean, you've come to expect that out of Coach Mitchell and the Spartans, to be sure. But right now they're trying to figure out that process and get to that point. But you've seen vast improvements since the season started.
Yeah. We have not talked about Brighton yet. So that's a team that's kind of, I know they've obviously they've battled some injuries, but they've had some really, really good wins this year so far. I know they're not 100% yet. I know they'll get a few guys back once the calendar turns to 2024. But I know they lost to Heartland 5-0 this past weekend, but Brighton's still going to be a strong team, and the big guys are still up and ready to go.
Yeah, look, everything starts with them with Duffney and Petit. I mean, it just does, and they're off to tremendous starts again. I mean, how about the start by Duffney? He's got 27 points in 11 games, and not to be undone. Petit has 15 goals already, and listen, Casey, I got a lot of the business from some guys last year. I really liked Brighton last year to make it to the finals at USA Hockey Arena, and I said it time and time again on the show. I liked it because of Levi. I think he gives them a big edge in net most nights, and he was outstanding in that epic game against Heartland. I mean, Heartland and Brighton could play 15 times, and they might go 7-7-1. I mean, honestly, that's the way those two teams are. But I think a money goalie in a money situation, I think that would be the way that I described Levi. And you're absolutely right. Listen, what a team is right now and what a team will be in February and into March are two entirely different things. Injury bug has been going around. The flu bug has been going around.
Yeah.
I think it's struck, it's really struck a bunch of teams. But if I know one thing, I know Coach Kavisto will have his boys ready to go tomorrow night, regardless of the circumstances, and pretty much every night. I got a heck of a lot of respect for Coach Kavisto, and that's the one thing you can count on is he'll have his Bulldogs ready for the challenge. Highlanders Bulldogs tomorrow. I can't wait.
Yeah. I believe I probably have to check with Kurt on this one, or I believe Howell has not beaten Brighton since I believe the 20 I think the regional final in 2020 when Howell beat Brighton that year. That was I believe that was Paul's, and I believe that was I'll have to check with those guys. I believe that was the last time that Howell beat Brighton. So it's been a while, and obviously Brighton as for years has been at the height of their powers and all that stuff. But what do you think about this matchup? And I don't know. You don't have to predict a winner.
You know me too well. No, you know what? This is a great measuring stick. Look, Howell has taken a step. There's no doubt about that. I think they're on most people's top 10 list, so to speak, Casey. But this is Brighton, and that's a big measuring stick. How far have they come? They get a chance to prove that to everybody, and subsequently take a big jump up in the rankings, I think, in a lot of people's minds as well. So, to me, what jumps out is both those top lines. I think both those top lines are exceptional and guys that are getting it done. Which can get the better of the other. I know a lot of people out there are going to say, well, Duffney and Petit have been doing it for so long. And, are the guys in Howell going to take that as, a personal affront? Joel and Ben and Cade, wait a second, we're getting the job done as well. I love the battle in net. You got the guy that is the defending, at least by our choosing, the defending Wall Award winner, and you got another guy that's on the list and people have been talking about. There's so many things to like about this game. Teams are going to be looking to exploit each other's defense cores. So there's so many things to like about it. I think it's going to be a tight game. I really do. And you're absolutely right. I am going full on Kirk Herbstreit. I am calling the game. There's no way you're going to catch me predicting a winner, but it'll be a fantastic hockey game regardless. And you're absolutely right. I think the stands will be packed. I think that the streaming numbers will be pretty good as well, and we're ready to have a heck of a lot of fun, Casey.
Right, it's going to be fun. And no, you're not getting a prediction out of me either. And I went to one of these schools, so
right. Yeah, you can never win with stuff like that,
It's I mean, for Brighton Howell is a huge rivalry. I mean, regardless of sport and stuff, whenever these two teams get together in anything, it is massive. Or whenever when Brighton and Heartland get together, or when Heartland and Howell get together. I know their game's going to be later in the year as well. It is a battle, and it's like to have three teams that are really good in the area which I live in. I guess Bill Kahn, Tim Eric, and I are really lucky.
Yeah, you guys are. I love getting out there. I love going to all the places. There's no doubt about it. It's nice to see old friends like you and the guys you mentioned. And it's great for Livingston County. It's great for the entire state. It really is. I mean, Brighton's been such a brand for so long. Ricky created Heartland as a brand. Make no mistake about that. And Rocky's doing the same thing with Howe. I mean, they're back certainly in the right direction this year, and it's going to be fun to see where this progresses during the course of the season.
Yeah. One last thing before you go. I know as the calendar shifts to 2024, I know the favorites to take D1, D2, and D3. Who are you? I know we talked a lot about them on this in this interview, but let's who are some of the favorites you think right now to really kind of take these three divisions?
You know what? I hate to see it again. You got to start with Catholic Central. There's no doubt about that. Heartland's certainly in the mix, no doubt about it. They played CC really tough in a game that I was at USA. So was Brighton. And let's see if Clarkston can take that proverbial next step. I'm intrigued at Romeo. They're off to a good start. Maybe they're a team coming from the back and to make things interesting. D2 for me, it starts with Byron Center. It really does. And then that's where things get a little tricky, because I think, Casey, I love this Trenton team. I said at the beginning of the year, I feel the same way about UAD. I think UAD is going to be very, very interesting. Brother Rice, Kenny Chappett's always going to get them ready. I think Chad LaRose has done a great job with D. LaSalle. Allen Park is getting the goaltending right now, so that's going to be fun to watch. In regards to Division III, I think right now, Houghton is the team that a lot of people are looking at. Bay Reps as well. Grand Rapids Catholic Central. Mike Slobodnik has himself one heck of a goaltender that's going to make life interesting. I like that OLSM team. I really do. I know we got a chance to see them up close and personal. I think that's a pretty darn good team as well. Hancock, what are they going to do? Dougie Garrow always has a tough team to play against. It's going to be a lot of fun, but since you pinned me to it, I think right now, I think you have to look at the teams that I have as my top three. I think you have to look at CC. I think you have to look at Byron Center, and you have to look at Houghton right now as we sit here on December 20th, but a lot can change before the end of the season.
Absolutely. And it usually does too. All right. Well, Sean Baligian, thank you so much for the time as always. And of course you can catch the Howell Brighton hockey game broadcast on State Champs on the State Champs YouTube channel tomorrow at 7 p.m. Or you can go to KV and watch it But yeah, but get there early because it's if you get there at like 6, you're not getting a parking spot. Speaking from experience.
Hey, it's always a pleasure, man. Keep doing what you're doing. I think you do fantastic stuff and helping promote the game. So I appreciate it.